Sometimes I watch TYT, and it's really hard to objectively not want to just say screw it and just quit altogether. Cenk is currently running for Congress. If he is elected, he will theoretically have a couple of months to be in office with Tulsi, who announced that she's retiring at the end of her current term. And as everyone knows, she's been catching hell for the last couple of days over voting present during the House impeachment vote of Trump. And I'm going to play the clip. I'm going to give my response to it.
Tulsi Gabbard, a Democratic congresswoman, was willing to vote present during the House impeachment vote. She didn't vote yes, she didn't vote no. She decided to vote present and is now offering a censure resolution against Donald Trump instead. Now, recently on the Hills Rising, she gave her reasoning behind her vote. Take a look.
Throughout my life, whether it was through serving in the military and in the different decisions that I've made in Congress, I always think about what's in the best interest of the country. People will agree sometimes with those decisions, may disagree with those decisions, but my motivation is always coming from a deep love of country. And that's where, after doing my due diligence and going through the exhaustive report that was put out at the conclusion of the inquiry, I came to that conclusion that I could not, in good conscience, vote either yes or no. A no vote was unacceptable to me because Donald Trump is absolutely guilty of wrongdoing. A yes vote was unacceptable to me because impeachment should never come about as a culmination of a highly partisan process.
So look, I would have liked a follow-up question on what Tulsi Gabbard felt Donald Trump did wrong, right? So what is it that he did wrong? And if she clearly mentions or clearly answers and says, well, he coerced a foreign government to meddle in US elections, then the follow-up question to that is, okay, well, if that's not an impeachable offense in your mind, then what is? If violating our democratic process is not impeachable in your mind, then what is?
Another question, which is, what part of the process was highly partisan? Oh, what? The Republicans didn't vote for it? The Republicans wouldn't vote for anything that the Democrats proposed. Literally nothing, 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 nothing. So if you're waiting for the Republicans to agree, then you have to agree with the Republicans 100%, otherwise they won't agree. So, I mean, you're not that naive about politics, right? So then what do you think was partisan about it? There wasn't anything partisan about it. Look, is there anyone on the air in the country that calls out the Democrats more than I do? I wouldn't play second fiddle to anyone on that. In terms of Democratic leadership and their incompetence and their poor strategy and their corruption, I've said it a million times, right? But here, I think they could have been tougher on Donald Trump. I've talked about that a lot. But could they have appeased Republicans more and made this less quote unquote partisan? No, not 1%.
Well,
if in fact they were too soft, they were too giving to the Republicans, too concerned about their issues. So for Tulsi Gabbard to say that the Democrats are too partisan on this, look, putting aside motivation for a second, it's an absurd claim to make. It is an absolutely outrageously false claim to make.
So it's interesting because you mentioned those things as if Tulsi Gabbard would agree with you, but we actually had a very different philosophical stance when it came to this impeachment investigation. Tulsi Gabbard actually wanted the scope of this investigation to be limited, whereas you're right. I mean, you said it as recently as yesterday. They should not have limited the scope of the investigation. In fact, there should have been more emphasis placed on possible financial crimes, campaign finance crimes. Those issues were not considered during this impeachment investigation. The articles of impeachment were vague, especially the abuse of power article. And so, yeah, Democrats actually went soft on Trump and proceeded from a place of fear. And that's what they usually do. That's where our criticism comes from. But this weird thing about how, I poured over all of this extensive research and the investigation and I found, there was wrongdoing, which is why I couldn't vote no, but I couldn't vote yes because there wasn't enough there to impeach him? That makes no sense.
Sorry, I don't believe that for 1 second. It doesn't make any sense. So here's what makes sense. I haven't yet decided whether I'm staying in the Democratic Party or going over to the Republican Party. So that's why I don't want to vote yes and I don't want to vote no. I want to preserve my options in case Joe Biden picks me to be his VP or in his cabinet. I want to preserve that option. But if he doesn't and Trump wins, I want to preserve the option of being in his cabinet. And I'm getting ready to make that switch right now. And so that's a political reality. And so but saying that the Democrats are too partisan on this is not supported by any fact at all. It's so.
Yeah.
You could read whatever intention you want into her decision, but you cannot read logic into it.
So Cenk's entire argument is that, or rather is his entire questioning relates to how the process was partisan. If anyone cares to recall, the entire vote in the House to impeach Trump, so the yay vote, entirely Democrats. Technically an independent, Amash, if you want to say, oh, he was a Republican at one point. But that right there automatically just shows how, and I guess what gets me is, the roll call votes are available for people to look at, to see, to check out, whatever. When you have an entire party minus 2 people vote to impeach someone, and then the entirety of the party of the members of the president stick to that person, it's partisan. The only time I saw any bipartisanship was in favor of Trump. You had Jonathan Turley come out and say this impeachment is going to be horrible, or speak negatively about its lasting legacy, and you also had Democrats vote to not get Trump on either charge. So that, that's aggravating by itself. But the most frustrating part of this was to have him sit there and go, I haven't decided, she hasn't decided if she wants to be here or be there. And this is all about if she gets picked to be VP or his cabinet, and Trump might pick her for his cabinet too. Listen, there is no way in hell, and this is, Cenk is a pretty smart person, I would say, very smart. There is no way in hell that Trump picks Tulsi for his cabinet. And this is why I said people, when they get upset at politicians, they oftentimes will take one vote and they'll make it to where it just completely overcuts everything else. The same thing happened with Collins last year. Oh, remember that Republican senator that we love because she voted against DeVos, and she voted for both of Trump's, she voted for both of Obama's Supreme Court nominees, and she voted to protect our precious Obamacare. Oh my God, she voted for a Supreme Court nominee from her own party. You're a traitor to women. Completely ignores everything she did that was good in the past. Oh, remember that Ro Khanna guy, the one that was as a potential vice presidential candidate for Bernie, and was actually the first member of Congress to endorse a person that wasn't from their home state, because of how much he supported Sanders and got Amazon to raise wages with Sanders. Oh, he voted for the anti-BDS bill. Time to primary him. Like, when Trump, and this is my thing, when they pick cabinet members, they look at their positions. They're going to look at her positions. They're going to say this person is too liberal. They're for some version of single payer, gun control, all of the standard Democratic things that would make her completely unviable, in addition to environmental regulations, things that I like, but that the Republicans will have nothing to do with. The only time she's ever useful as far as getting support from him is when she's anti-war and he's anti-war on some particular issue. And she's insulted him multiple times. She called him Saudi Arabia's you-know-what. So where does he get this insane idea that she's doing this because maybe Trump will pick me for his cabinet? There's no way in hell he's going to do that for the reasons I just gave. And they know that Trump didn't pick a single Democrat for his cabinet, or person who wasn't a Republican other than Mattis. But you go over to Anna's. I'm not even going to respond to that because these people, they're so pointless when they sit here and complain about things. She's talking about if there's any grounds to get rid of him. And, we've already said that it's hard to really take any of this seriously as far as like, oh my God, we're going to get Trump out of there because when we already know the answer to this movie. We know he's going to get acquitted by the Senate, and it's going to be almost an entirely party line, partisan vote, other than maybe Manchin voting for him to get off, and maybe Collins or Romney voting to get him on the charges to save her reelection campaign, and then we're going to go right back to how it was before, except he'll have a higher approval rating. But I just really hate critiques like this because they're not based in reality. These people are smarter than they're letting on. We're talking about two individuals who follow politics regularly, who know the hyper-partisan era we live in. And one of them's crazy enough in this particular instance to say, oh yeah, Tulsi is trying to get in Trump's cabinet. Yeah. No. Like, have some basic common sense. All the issues that she disagrees with on Trump, and all the personal insults, there's nothing there. I don't know why people can't just vote a different way and not have their motive impugned, especially something like impeachment, where you know that because one chamber of Congress is controlled by the president's party, he's going to get off anyway. So maybe she doesn't want to attach her name to a roller coaster that she already knows doesn't have all of its tracks completed. But they won't ask this. I don't know. This has always been the main issue that I've had a problem with them on, because if anyone watched, like myself, TYT prior to Trump getting elected, or rather taking office, it wasn't like this. You actually had critiques of Democrats, you had critiques of Republicans, and there was no like. I mean, I still to this day, every couple of months, go back to the prediction the August 2017 video of Cenk predicting that this video's titled, Trump will resign in disgrace soon. Because like they've been laser focused on just believing any and everything about Trump, and I just like, who cares? Like I see them praising Nadler, and like you praise someone like that, someone like Waters, these neoliberal politicians who haven't done anything in relation to the anti-war movement, who've gone along with every single neoliberal austerity conservative position. And then you want to go and get upset at Tulsi because she won't support an impeachment that we already know the ending to? Man, whatever.